Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Life Chronicles and Deep Dives podcast. I'm here with Coach Cornelia, all the way in Romania.
Hello, everybody.
And my name is Coach Mika Ranjit here in the United States. Today, we're going to be talking about Ageless Fun. So, I kind of was thinking about this topic because I'm very playful. And I think as people grow older, they lose that playfulness because they want to fit a narrative where they want to be a certain age or act a certain age. All the while, it's totally possible for them to have fun just doing things that they did as a kid. And in some cases, right, they've evolved what they've done as a kid, whether they like Legos and they're building model ships, or they racing games and they're actually driving. But let's talk about staying young with the things that they did actually as a kid. Why is there such a stigma behind doing those things if you're an adult? For me, I prefer to I watch martial arts movies. I watch a lot of martial arts movies. I have several hundred of martial arts movies. And so when I get done watching a martial arts movie, I like to emulate the fight scenes to see what moves I can do if a character did something kind of crazy or off the wall. I'm a martial artist myself, so it's not uncommon for me to try different things, right?
Yeah.
When I was younger, and even now, I carried it, right? I didn't stop doing it. When I see people moving really, really fast in fight scenes, I actually try to move as fast as them. When I was younger, I didn't realize that they were recording at a lower speed, playing back at a normal speed, so it looked faster.
Yeah,
So I actually made myself pretty fast just by doing that.
that's pretty cool. I was about to ask you if they're not, um, how do you call it? The movies were recorded in one way and then made them faster because it's impossible to move on such a high speed.
Yeah, and I was definitely trying, as a kid, and even jumping on a trampoline. I would take to the trampoline, and I'd watch a lot of movies with wire work. So I would go out on the trampoline, and then I would try to do those moves without wires, just a trampoline. And
Yeah.
I tell you what, I ended up upside down. And I would still do that today. Like if I don't have a trampoline, but if I had a trampoline, I would still try to do those things today. And I think as people get older, they forget, or they sometimes I guess they could lose interest in it. But generally, when you find something fun as a kid, you find it fun as an adult, I would think, right? I do. And maybe I'm just projecting. I don't know.
It depends. I mean, everyone has an idea about fun is. So I think when people are becoming grown-ups, I was talking to a friend and said, fun, what is fun? Fun is to go out and have some drinks and be with your friends. So most of the people are thinking that this is what fun is. For me, for example, I wasn't a playful kid. My idea of fun was just playing the ball with the boys or different other sportive games. So I was not into having dolls or this kind of plays. And then when I grew up a little bit, my idea of fun was reading books. So I'm a very boring person from this point of view, and I think I gave this to my daughter as well because I've never played. I don't know how to play with her. So if if I were to relate with the idea of fun equals play, I'm not a good one on this one. So I think fun is different for every each one, but at the same time, I think that fun is or keeping yourself childish is very healthy, and it's enjoying the small things. When it rains, I love to go out in the rain and run around with my daughter. I don't know how to play, but I can do this one instead, because this is what I'm familiar with. This is what I like doing. Or when we're going to the beach, we fool around in the water, playing around and so on. So it depends. Each of us has a different idea about what fun is. Going along with these spontaneous feelings you have, like sometimes maybe someone hears a song and you're home alone and you just want to dance and follow these instincts, right? And it's it's another kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and so that's like my thing. It's like a lot of people will resist the urge to do the
Yeah,
things that they once found fun or probably still do find fun because they're afraid of their age and the reflection that it would have on their age.
yeah,
I don't know. What do you think? Is that like some sort of like potential for insecurity or some sort of societal cap on what fun and play should be? It's hard to put a finger on it, but I think it's important for people to engage in those activities or at least try to explore things that bring them joy. Like, for instance, you said like reading was fun for you, right? I mean, physical play you don't do. That wasn't your experience as a kid, but you find fun enjoyment out of reading and you carried that over into an adulthood. So there's not a real problem there. I think it's just like you're carrying it from childhood to adulthood. Where I see that cutoff happen is like I know that there are people, and I've interacted with them. I don't want to single any individual out that they've expressed to me that they find those things fun. They just can't do it because it's not their, like they need to act their age or like
mm,
these things. And I'm thinking in my head, how much joy they could bring to themselves if they actually participated in this activity, if they went out and did it. Um, and
mm.
maybe they have to do it in private or something like that. I don't know. For me, I do my kung fu everywhere. I do my fantastical fight scenes that I make up with invisible ninjas, and I even make my own sound effects. And
Can you do one
it's
now?
yeah. I said I make my own sound effects when I
Yeah,
do it.
I was asking you to make one now.
Oh, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but like, let's say if this is like an older, like 70s kung fu movie, right? So like, if they're fighting, they fight in like stop and go type actions. So they'd be like that.
Yeah.
So you're like in the camera, I don't know if the speaker will pick that up, but like I'll do that, and I will be at a park or I will be, in between something at work on break. I don't know, whatever comes to my mind. Because I like to choreograph fight scenes. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to do that. And I've got a couple of very short films that I've done some choreography for, and I've done some choreography for some uh, other people that were interested in upping their game and for self-defense routines for like demonstrations, like international demonstrations. So I've done those things and I really find enjoyment out of doing it. And then like just challenging myself to be in different kinds of movement that I wouldn't normally do,
Mm,
like flipping and twisting and spin kicking and stuff like that. A lot of the stuff that I used to do when I was younger, I
yeah,
physically cannot do now because I have an injury in my lower spine. But I still will try to do them. I think that's that's the thing. I may not succeed. I definitely try.
that's cool. I have a friend who I was talking with her about this topic, and she's not. She's. I mean, if you were to compare me with her, I'm the most playful person in the world compared with her. She says that everything she likes is to watch movies, and she if she for example, if she were to do something like this, like spontaneous thing, she would feel that she is ridiculous. That's her feeling about it, and um, it's such a different vibe for fun on every person. For her, having fun is watching movies. She comes home from work, she's watching movies. He's cooking, she's watching movies. When she goes to sleep, she's watching movies. She's watching movies all the time. That's her idea of fun. But following this urge you're talking about, being spontaneous if you feel like doing it, I think is the greatest recipe for not getting into this everyday life where you have these daily habits, doing the same things over and over again. This routine that might make us feel very old. And if you're doing these kind of things that you feel like doing, running in the rain like I like to do it with my daughter, or you doing this kung fu uh, moves, it makes you feel that you're not living for nothing. First of all, an unlived life is horrible, and then you feel that you have a little something in you. You still have something in you there. It's something in inside of you, right?
Yeah, I think that like inner child just like comes out when I'm doing like, when
Yeah.
I'm doing my little imaginary fight scenes. But I do other things, right? So I definitely used to play sports. I don't have as many opportunities to play sports now, but I do like, so here's the evolution, right? So I do physical fitness, like working out, stuff like that, at the gym. I have my own gym. Um, my fiance, she does like gymnastics. She's a gymnastics coach. So she works with me. We do handstands and cartwheels and all number of things, right? And we'll ask each other to randomly do like handstands or cartwheels like in random places. So I mean like complete, like as long as it's safe, right?
Yeah.
Like, just because. Um
Yeah.
and that we have a lot of fun doing that. Like running around just laughing with each other and like doing those things. If we look at some other stuff, like adults express their creativity in different ways. So like I painted like these paintings behind me. Well, my fiance painted some of them. I painted some of them. But like when you're a kid, right? What do you learn? Coloring. In adulthood, you have adult coloring books. They're a lot more intricate, right?
Hmm.
There's creative art classes. There's painting. There's sculpting. So like the kids that used to play in the mud, maybe they're playing with clay now. I don't know. um, but the important part is just like engaging with that spontaneity, engaging with that inner child, and maybe even exploring something new. I think a lot of people resist the urge to explore new ways to bring fun into their life, new ways to bring joy and happiness into themselves, to express their creativity. I think they definitely shudder that, or the concept of looking like they need to be a certain age.
Or some people just are just born like this, and there are people that are just born being serious. And I know a couple of people like this. They are just the most serious persons. They find playing or having fun ridiculous, or um, let's say superficial, maybe, because they have this seriousness about life, about what you should do, what are your responsibilities, and they think that maybe if you're having a little bit of fun, you're not going to be responsible on the other parts. It's not true. So it doesn't have anything to, you can be very responsible and very serious person at work or in your professional life, but you can be very funny in private without these two having any consequences on each other, right? So some people are born like this, being very serious, being very responsible, thinking that fun is superficial, and maybe some of them have some trauma that doesn't allow them to have fun. They were taught that the life is made of just work, going to work when you grow up, right? When you're a child, you study very hard, and then you grow up, you become an adult, and you go to work. You start to make your own family. You have responsibilities. It's what the parents told them life is about because their parents had that life, and that's what they think is life is. So I think it's very hard. Maybe they want to have fun and they don't know how, or they're afraid of doing something that is out of the responsibility area. No.
Yeah. So, okay. Definitely a learned behavior, right? So like as a kid, I had to play by myself a lot. So my imagination was a key factor in like creating with with whether I was building with Legos, whether I was um drawing, whether I was creating fight scenes, in my head and then out in the world, running around my backyard. A lot of time spent by myself. So my imagination kicked up. My mom encouraged me to use my imagination to, live and have fun, create these fantasy worlds, live in them, but then, definitely come back to the real world to have,
Yeah.
some degree of seriousness and then um yes, so I mean, it could be trauma. It could be like they grew up, like you said, without having that learned behavior that spontaneity or fun is okay. Some of them will then eventually do something that they find annoying almost, right? But then they will internally enjoy it, right? Question
Mm,
is, do they seek it out again, right? So like, do they continue to look for that fun, that pleasurable moment, and will they continue to try to find it? And if we know anything about human behavior, and we're not psychologists, but we do know a little bit, is that if people want one path of least resistance, people want the path of least resistance. But not only that, if they can find something that feels good, they will generally go towards something that feels good. They will go towards something that feels good and move away from something that feels bad. Um, so if they find something, right? Let's say if Jim never has fun, and if your name is Jim and you're listening to this, I'm not singling you out. I'm just creating a character. If Jim never grew up and learning about playing outside, never played sports, right? All he did was go to school, come home, and then when he came home, he did chores, homework, um, prep for the next day, and went out, right? His creativity, his ability to engage with those things is stunted. Now,
sure.
does his inner child still exist? Yes. Can he engage with those things? Maybe with some work, or maybe with what I like to call immersion therapy. So, or experience, right? So he has to have that first experience to know that he likes it,
Yeah, sure.
and then not repress the feelings that it's not responsible to have fun, right? And that will be the biggest hurdle
And,
for him, I think.
and getting over the guilt because many of these responsible people are, I think they have this feeling of guilt that they somehow detached from the person they should be. the serious one, the responsible one, then they had a little bit of fun, and they might experience guilt, which is fine. They should just embrace this guilt and then try it again.
Mhm. Yeah, because if they don't like, I mean, if you don't try something, right, you'll never achieve whatever you're, you know, looking at. Because if you're not trying it, you're not even going to try to get past the goal. So I think it's important for people to at least consider the idea that if they have an urge, as long as it's not hurting anybody or inappropriate, right? And they think it's going to feel good to them, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it plays in with their wounded inner child. Maybe it brings up memories of nostalgia, right? Because a lot of people will go through like photo albums, or they'll go through their attic or storage unit or whatever, and they'll
Mm.
find something that necessarily they don't have now, they had when they were younger, and they will, you know, start to play with that particular, like if it's a toy or a game or like cards or something, whatever, you know, they will literally start to re-engage with that, but then sometimes they set it aside. I think it's important for them to consider exploring that, um, because it can be like enlightening. It can be nice. It can be a great feeling to re-engage with something that, you know, maybe you've set aside for years.
Mm.
Especially when you were a kid, and it brings you joy. I mean, like people talk about this all the time. They like pick up a video game that they, you know, played when they were kids. They loved it. A movie. They watched a movie when they were kids. They'll pop it in and they'll be like, "Oh, I love this movie." Right? It could be a kids movie. I know a lot of adults that watch Disney movies, or a lot of adults, young adults, older adults that love to watch cartoons,
Yeah.
right?
Um, Talking about kids, us as parents, we have to be very careful with this because the times has changed. While at least when I was a kid, we are on the streets all the time. I was telling that I like to go into these um, sports games. We had a lot of ball games, and we were on the streets all the times. Of course, everyone was having his own their own idea of fun, but we were outside all the time. Maybe I was reading a book. Maybe the boys were playing football. Maybe the girls were playing with the dolls. But everyone was outside in the streets. The kids nowadays, they don't go out that much, unfortunately. So they are not feeding their childhood with playful things. They are mostly on the phones, tablets, computers. And I remember thinking about what if I should allow my daughter to be on these electronic devices instead of asking her to go out and play, because things have changed so much. I was asking my dad to let me out and play, and when we were coming in the summertime, in the summer vacation to our grandparents, it was amazing. We were getting up in the morning, going out on the streets, and they could only catch us on when we were eating. That was all. Right now, you are asking the kid to go out, and the kids are not very interested in this. So lucky that, for example, in Denmark, the kids are playing while they are at school. They are playing outside in the schoolyard for a very long time, which is a very great asset for the kid, because they, besides the idea of fun, it's also very healthy to climb trees, to run around, to jump up and down. Um, Except the trampoline you're talking about, it's not that healthy, but they're still allowed to do it. Um, So for the kids nowadays, it's very important to learn how to play, and us as parents have a responsibility to let them go out. Sometimes maybe force them to go out and play.
Yeah.
Of
Okay.
you might find this problematic when they don't find other kids to play with because everyone is inside. This is why I was saying that in Denmark in schools it's very good that they have this program with they stay longer in school but they are playing a lot. Then they are coming home and they're staying in the houses. But at least you know that they had their share of play at school.
Yeah. I think kids nowadays are definitely like me. So when I grew up, video games, were starting to get very popular. They were, showing up in, most houses. And then I had a game system, right? So I had pretty much every game system from PlayStation up. Thanks to my mom and my grandparents. Christmas, birthday, and so uh, Christmas and birthday, they'd like give me, like whichever one was, the one that I wanted, the next one, right? With that being said, I also spent a lot of time outside, and you're right. Kids should be outside, running around. It's good for the bones, good for their cardio system, good for their nervous system. Interacts with the environment, exposes them to. This sounds bad. Exposes them to germs, but it builds their immune system in retrospect.
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids these days they aren't actually. I mean, I know they're not. They're not outside. I do see them sometimes outside when I'm driving past, like in the younger ages outside, playing around. Older kids, maybe they. I don't know. I don't see that many kids riding bikes. I remember when I was growing up. Um, as soon as I could get a bike, I
Yeah.
wanted one. Or like as soon as I could, like, oh, can I go around the block? Oh, can I, I get off. Oh yeah, can I go? And she'd give me like like ranges or streets that I could go to and streets that I couldn't cross and stuff. And as I got older, those streets, the distance got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I had to call when I got to where I was going, usually my friend's house. Um, and that was fun. So like I mean, was that we were outside roller skating, we were outside, playing on parks, playing basketball. I played soccer, recreationally as well as in the neighborhoods. Um, I think that kids these days are. I mean, some parents put their kids in these things. Like some kids put their kids in gymnastics, or like my daughter's in dance, so she's in dance, and sometimes she does some tumbling with that as well, gymnastics. But I think that parents do this. I think maybe as a way to like move their kid between different interests. I don't necessarily notice like a lot of times I can tell if a kid's got interest in
Yeah.
doing something, whether like so if the kids in martial arts and they're not actually interested in martial arts, but their parents interested in martial arts, you can usually tell. So I'm
Mm.
assuming that's the same across the board for any number of outdoor dance or indoor type activities, sports, whatever. You know, when that happens, I think it's the parents guiding the kids out, right, to do these activities. In that aspect, the parents technically wasting their money on something the kid doesn't want to do.
Mm.
However, there's going to be something that this kid will potentially like. And the downside is as we've moved towards electronics, kids are less interested in um, physical activity. They're less interested in being outside. Um, they're more interested in phones. I think kids these days, I don't know, 9 year olds, 8 year olds having cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone until I could drive. So at 16 at the time. And it was an emergency cell phone. It wasn't even like a fun cell phone. It didn't have all the apps and stuff that we have now. It was just you could dial and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think maybe we could send text messages. I don't know,
Mm.
but I mean, generationally, kids are interacting with their phones more than they are, and sometimes, I mean, I guess to some degree that could be fun, right?
For
But
them, it is.
also,
For them, it's fun, of course.
yeah,
It's
right.
the it is the fun they know, right? So it's the fun these kids know, and it's the first generation that are not playing outside. So we are the first generation of parents who have to deal with this situation and understand that maybe this is their idea of fun, but it's not a very healthy idea of fun, and they don't
Mhm.
know, don't believe it.
Mhm. Well, I mean, it's going to carry over into adulthood, right? So you're going to have sedentary lifestyles, unhealthy, outcomes, going to the doctor's office. They're going to have, any number of adverse health effects. I mean, even I think I saw an article on something where like the neck just from being down like
Mm-hmm.
this. Imagine, think about this weird idea evolution over time. Okay. So evolution over time changes life forms into evolve into their environment. If this is the new environment, what is the next evolution? Right? Are we going to get like longer like necks that allow us to tilt our heads down more, or our heads just going to be tilted down, longer? I don't know. I was just throwing that out there. It's kind of funny idea, but yeah, I
But if
think
there are,
electronics.
I've seen a doctor talking about this body modification, where a bone in the back just modifies when we are doing this position, and doing it every day for hours, the bone just changes, right? So it is an evolutionary fact as well, indeed.
Okay. So okay, maybe it was the same article or similar article or similar study. That's pretty cool. Because I just remember glancing past it, but like kids in video games, right? They're getting connected, and now more than ever. When I was younger, video games were four people sitting around one screen with no internet playing split screen. Now people are playing across the globe. Well, when they grow up, is that their only source of fun, or are they out, like, I mean, because probably not if they're doing outdoor activities, they're only doing them for very short spurts, and then they're back onto their electronic devices. uh well, how does that translate later for future generations? That could be detrimental to like development. What is it, Wally, the movie Wally, where the humans developed like robots and electronic devices and the flying chairs. And eventually they didn't need to walk or do anything themselves. Excuse me. They didn't need to do anything themselves. So they just had, their bones shrank. I mean, they were in space, but their bones shrank. Like they didn't know how to do things. They couldn't really walk. So when
Hmm.
they had to go back to Earth, right? Their idea of fun in that movie was sitting around on a floating chair and pressing buttons and ordering stuff. And
Yeah,
it's not, I mean, we're not too far from it. And that could
it's
be detrimental.
it's pretty sad. I just want to make a small note about. I still remember the us kids going with the bicycles around the neighborhood and renaming the streets, and I still remember the names of the streets we decided because we named the streets by the flowers that were, let's say this street had the most flowers were roses on this street, and so it's the rosy street, and so on. So I still remember, and you said at the beginning of our conversation, you said maybe you find a toy since you were a kid. It's such a great feeling that I remember this with the streets, going with the bicycles with my friends. And it's pretty sad for the kids nowadays that they cannot experience the same things we did. It's pretty sad. And
Yeah.
even if as parents we are encouraging them to go outside, they will be mainly alone because other kids are inside their houses.
right? They'd rather interact through the cell phone than physical like interaction, and it's not the same.
Yeah. And
Generations before us, their ideas of fun were going to school, right? So going to school, maybe gardening, hunting, right? Or learning a trade, gardening, hunting, repeat, right? Obviously, they had, different games back then, earlier versions of games that we have now, but they still played outside. They were interacting with people. It's almost like a de evolution of society through the interaction of these cell phones and electronics devices,
and
where,
this is how, sorry to interrupt you, but this is how you realize how important playing and having fun it is. Because if we take this from the equation, you get this generation of children that are, maybe they don't they have side problems, bones problems. They don't know how to play, they don't know how to interact, and they will become grown-ups, like you said in that movie, on those chairs with buttons, just ordering things and not having fun at all.
mhm,
So that's how you realize how important having fun and playing is.
yeah, absolutely. I think people, I hate saying should, right? I don't like to tell people what to do. Do what you want. I think it is a healthy option for people to consider um, playing even in adulthood, right? So, like, maybe I go on hikes, right? I like to be outside. I like to go on hikes and challenge myself that way. We talked about rock climbing in one of the earlier podcasts, how I always feel like I'm going to fall off a mountain. It doesn't ever stop me from rock climbing. It does
Yeah.
slow me down coming down though, right? So I still do that. And I used to climb trees as a kid. So that's carried over. It's evolved from climbing trees. Now, if I have trees, the trees that we have here, not so great for climbing. But if we had trees that I could climb without harming them, I would, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
um, I think a lot of the stuff that I do or did as a kid, I still do now. Um, some things it's like making sound effects, or I mean, I can turn anything into like cowboys and aliens, or cowboys and robbers, or soldiers versus bad guys. I can turn anything into that, or any object. I can make almost any object into a jet, and I will fly it around if I want to and make jet noises. And like, I don't care what
That,
anybody thinks about it.
yeah, that's the play I've never been good at. So I could go out and play ball, but or sports or whatever, but I've never been good at these kind of things. I don't have the creativity probably to do it, to have this. So this is why I probably am not playing with my daughter, and I've never did with dolls or this kind of things. I think it, and my husband is just like me, so I think it would have been much funnier for her to have parents who knew how to play more. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about, I feel sorry that I didn't play with her, but I really don't know how to do it. If she came to me with a doll, I didn't know what to do with it. I mean, I'm just brushing her hair if you want to. I'm putting clothes on the doll, and that's all I can do. I'm not good at. Probably you are good at doing characters as well. This is my doll, and this is your doll, and we're talking and maybe doing some things together. I'm not good at it, so that's great for whoever can do it.
I think that growing into it, right? So maybe, right? I don't know. Does your daughter play? I mean, I don't want to turn this into like a one-on-one. Does your daughter work with does your daughter play with these toys like on her own?
Does, yeah, yeah.
So she's like bringing the imagination,
Yes,
right?
she does her own or with her friends. She's doing it, yeah. But when she was little and didn't have many friends, I wasn't a good play partner in this area of imagination. But she's doing it by herself.
Yeah.
a
And
lot.
so like that's kind of I guess that's kind of like my thing. So like when you're in the environment that, let's say, it's not available, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you're not telling her not to do it.
sure, of course.
You're allowing her to like grow and experience this imagination and then grow within that imagination and create with it. So when that happens, she's going to like, her imagination is probably like vibrant, and it's because it's a product of having to create when it wasn't presented,
Yeah, yeah.
to, right?
Probably.
So I mean so that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, so and with other kids like that, like parents that are overbearing, where they're like only supposed to be doing like schoolwork and these things, if they can reinforce the imagination to be suppressed within the kid, that would be, like how that would happen. But if they're allowing that imagination to like flourish and grow, because I think it's because I spent so much time by myself, right? I'm like relating to this particular topic, right? My mom didn't discourage me from having an imagination. She encouraged the imagination. She wasn't always with me to create. So that forced me to have to do that, right? That's how I was able to do it. But because I spent all that time by myself doing these things, I don't have a problem with it now, right? So even if I am by myself or around people, I'm still technically, I mean, unless my fiance is with me, even if I'm around people, I'm still by myself. I have no problem, like doing whatever makes me. People look at me weird. They're like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "But yeah, just I'm playing over here, man. I got this jet. I'm playing Independence Day." um,
That's pretty cool.
it's yeah. I don't, because I'm not doing it in an unsafe way, right? I'm not harming anybody.
Mm,
I'm not. I know that what I'm playing with isn't real. Um, if I'm creating with it, right? My imagination. I know that I'm not doing it in unsafe places, right? Like, I wouldn't be driving a car and pretending I've got two, hand figures fighting each other, Like, I wouldn't be doing that, right? That's how how you supposed to drive a car like that? Um, so like it's all about like when and where, but I still do it because it does bring me joy, and it allows me to keep my creativity going. Like excuse me, movie writers, like the script and screenplay writers, directors, like they're visionary, right? They've got that imagination. Their medium is sometimes different. I guess the cross would be like stop motion animators. So like Ray Harryhausen, one of the greats, um, probably the greatest, Ray Harryhausen, combined a physical medium with an imagination, and then applied it to a different medium altogether and recorded it. I think that's also kind of like what fight choreographers do. Fight choreography is like dancing. So you take dancing, physical fitness, movement all together, and then you put it into a film. So it takes some imagination, some creativity. Um, Sports, right? Playing with balls. It's like riding a bike. I say that like something you did as a kid, right? You ride a bike as a kid, generally, unless there's some major incident, you've learned how to ride that bike. You can ride it as an adult.
yeah, sure.
A lot of adults still ride their bikes. They do like, street. I mean, it's like an Olympic sport, isn't it? Bike riding, cross country or something. Um, you think I'd know that. But I mean, you like trail riding or something. Um, these things they've carried over, right? Some in adulthood, sometimes we do it for competition, sometimes we do it for you know to make us feel better for ourselves.
Yeah, I remember my grandmother. When she was a kid, they didn't have. You can imagine that they didn't have 100 years ago. They didn't have too many things to play with. They were just working the field. That was the main thing. But on Sundays, they would clean up and go out on they had a street where everyone was meeting in Sundays, and they were playing cards and another game. And she played these games until she died. Every single weekend, she was meeting with the neighbors from the street and she was playing these games. I think it was amazing that she
Yeah,
kept.
I mean, a long standing tradition. And I think my grandfather kind of did the same thing. He would go and he'd meet with his friends at this one place. It was like a burger joint, and they had shakes, and he would play cards down there. Um, because like I said, they didn't, like you said, they didn't have a lot of intricate games. They didn't have video games, not computers. All right. Well, that was an exciting topic. We kind of touched on a couple things, bringing it up from childhood, different mediums, different avenues, different perspectives on ageless fun and growing up, imagination, all those things. If you have any questions for us, leave them in the comments section below. Our website is also going to be in the description box, and we'll see you next time.
Until then, have fun.